conference call at 4:20, but earlier today had a chance before he spoke at the tip-off luncheon at Baylor at McLean Stadium to visit with Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark. Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark with me, David Smoak on Sikkim 365 Radio. Man, you're nonstop. This is you, right?
Hey, this is me. I mean, I'm all about energy and trying to push the ball forward, and we're off to a great start.
You, about a week ago, said that there could be a chance in the next couple of weeks that something is decided when it comes to television, network, extension, whatever. You feel even better about that now?
It's a work in progress, but I'm feeling very optimistic. I think there's an opportunity to get something done. Both ESPN and Fox have been very engaged. That being said, at the end, if we feel that it's in our best interest as a conference to pause and wait 16 months, we have the option to do that. Don't forget, this was all about accelerating those conversations, and everyone's been fantastic. You know, the process has been great, but the fallback is, you know what, let's wait it out. I would prefer to go early. I think gaining stability and clarity for our schools is paramount right now. I think it would be a validation of where this conference is going. It would credentialize our vision. But if we have to wait because we think we're better situated in 16 months from now, then that's what we'll do.
Would it be a disappointment if you don't get it done early?
No, not really. I mean, for me personally, it's been great to spend as much time as I have with both ESPN and Fox to better understand how they define partnership, not only now but in the future. So I take that as a great, learning opportunity for me personally. So it wouldn't be disappointing at all, in fact. But we'll see what happens. I mean, I think over the course of the next, hopefully a couple of weeks, we'll know more.
What would be the reason you don't? Is it because of just pure numbers?
Yeah, I think it comes down to economics. I think it just comes down to economics. But as I've also said, it's not just about the economics, although they're a big driver. I want a real partnership. Given where we're going with the Big 12 as we want to contemporize and build our business and our brand and become more national, we need strategic partners that want to help in that effort. So a lot of the conversation that I've had with ESPN and Fox is how can you be part of that process in building the Big 12, in amplifying and elevating everything we do? So as much as the economics have been a part of the conversation, so has that.
Would it be a short-term type of deal if you do it, or is this going to be one that when you say of an extension, it goes to 24, 25? Would it be 2-3 years, or could it be that 5 to 7 years?
It would be enough term, to get the work done that we need. So we haven't discussed and honed in on the years just yet, but I would think all the parties would want it to be meaningful enough so that some of the work that needs to be done as we want to elevate and build the brands of our member institutions, our conference, that we have enough time to do that.
Well, my last thing then is that when you took over compared to where you are now, since early July to where you are now, do you feel better, even better than you did when you walked in the door? Not just because of the information you know or the insight. Do you feel better about the conference than you even did?
100%. I think the narrative is changing. I came on board and we've done a lot of work in my first, 80 days. We've reorganized the conference. We've brought in some meaningful talent, both new talent and talent that would support the existing infrastructure. We've painted our vision out there publicly. We know where we want to go. I've had a chance to meet with all the key stakeholders, spend time on all the different campuses. We've obviously been in meaningful conversations with our media partners. We've hired Endeavor to help us with our commercial strategy, as well as, our multimedia rights strategy. We've hired a new agency, Translation, to help us with our creative as we build out, what the new Big 12 would look like with the 4 new member institutions coming in July. We've gotten a lot of things done, and I think it's just the beginning, and I'm more energized now than I've ever been.
If you don't mind, if in fact you get something done soon, would that open the door for additive, as you've discussed, or would that really have anything to do with anybody else coming in?
Well, as I've said all along, we do want to expand our geographic footprint. As we aspire to go national, having fans and institutions from coast to coast would make sense. If it's additive, if it creates value, having the stability of our media partners beyond the current term, I think affords us the opportunity, to move in that direction, but only if it's right for all parties involved.
Do you think Fox and ESPN have a better value? They feel better about the conference now?
100%. I mean, just look at where we've been all year in football. I mean, we've arguably have the most exciting conference in America, the deepest conference in America. We're exciting, week in and week out. The games, the win margin is very narrow. We lead the country in total points scored, total yardage. We play an up-tempo style that's very engaging for fans. They love our product, and this year has been one of the best we've had in years.
Brett, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. All
Yormark,
right, that's from
Big 12
earlier
commissioner
today,
on 360.
right before the tip-off luncheon. Brett Yormark, and really, a couple of things that he said that jumped out at me as I'm sitting there talking to him. It's not so much just about the money. It's just about the money, but they need, and they really have never had, truly, with the teams that are remaining, when Texas and Oklahoma leave for the powerful SEC. But they need partners, and he mentioned the strategic partners. They've always had, like you said, as others dictating who they are to them, to the Big 12. They need somebody, if they're going to be tied into a contract, whether it's 3 years or 7 years or whatever, that truly have the back of the conference. And that's not always been the case, at least that people have felt.
I can't figure out why ESPN, and maybe it's just because they didn't have the right people in place at the time, but ESPN and Fox, if ESPN is willing to go all out to promote the SEC network like they are, and the SEC like they are, why would they not be willing to spend those resources on all the teams that they have? Because it's still a television show they have to promote, right? It would be silly if a network had, 4 shows on a Thursday night and they said, well, one of them's really good, but we're not going to try to promote the other ones. I mean, even the ones that aren't good, if you look at a sitcom block, if there's one really good one and 3 average shows around it, what do they say? America's favorite new comedy. Well, that's a general statement. Well, why are they not doing that for the Big 12? Why are they not doing it for the ACC? Because they're really not. And I know that maybe it can be a little bit, they don't want to seem fraudulent by saying the ACC is great, and for the last few years it's just pretty much been Clemson. But even still, why are they not hitting it so hard to promote the good games that they have? And maybe it's just because of the end result. The SEC has wound up, winning more national titles than everybody, but even still, it should be part of the whole thing to promote it.
I don't know, Paul. I mean, why is Feinbaum like the voice of college football, so to speak, in in their universe? I mean, he does certainly speak for the majority of the nation. I just think there's reasons that we're probably not aware that make sense to them, but regardless of how whoever is marketed, it's good to have somebody in charge of the Big 12 that's got a vision and got something cooking, whether that's, going to be done here pretty soon or if that's down the line. This is kind of like where I was last week when these rumors popped up about them signing a deal. I was like, well, why so fast? Like, that's what I just kept asking. And like, well, if you got a deal, you got to, and I got that, but I don't know. It just seemed very quick and sort of out of nowhere to me. And now to hear him kind of tapping the brakes a little bit on that, because that's what I consider what we just heard there. That makes more sense, especially when you hear him say, well, like 26 months down the line is when they're really supposed to be, or 16 months. So, I mean, it's like well over a year away. And I get you got to lay the groundwork before all of that, but that just seemed awfully early to have a deal kicking in already for me.
Only if, like he said as well, he kind of clarified that. They're not going to just sign it to be able to say they have 2 or 3 years. It has to be a win-win for both.
But that wasn't the messaging last week.
No.
It was just like they were signing a new deal. And so my whole thing was like, okay, well, I hope they're getting more money at least, or because otherwise, why would you just do that just to do that? And then, the security part of it makes sense, but ACC's got a lot of security right now. They don't exactly love it. They like it, but they would love some other aspects to just having the long-term security. They almost have too much security in the ACC right now. So, good to hear him with some updated comments. Clearly, there could could not be a deal in the foreseeable future. As I mentioned earlier, Wilner's reporting that Amazon and the Pac-12 it appears that they're heading in that direction. There's a lot of big shoes that need to drop to kind of give us, the true look at what this landscape's going to be. But it seems that, both have suitors, and that's good, and that's what you would expect. And, how all that shakes out in the wash, that's the part that I'm just going to sit back and patiently await, because right now I feel like we're just getting kind of the PR points in so many ways from, the commissioners having to say what they have to say.
One of the other things he mentioned, which I was a little surprised at, but until you figure out the money, the next thing you want to look at are the years. Said they haven't really discussed that yet, because if you look at an extension, it depends. If you're a player in the NFL and you're about to become a free agent and a team renegotiates your deal and you get a bonus, and then what they do is they lessen your hit on the cap for the next 2 or 3 years, eventually, whether it's 5 years or whatever, but you do get an extension. The longer the extension really is more team-friendly, am I right, than it is player-friendly, because the team can walk away from you. They're going to pay you the bonus money, but they can walk away from you and not have to get hit with a lot of salary cap money. But in the Big 12's case, the fact they have not discussed years, at least that's what Mr. Yormark said, was interesting to me. I thought that maybe he would say that, he wasn't going to say the exact number of years, but that was of interest to me. The strategic partners, not just about the money, which it is, and then they haven't quite discussed the years yet. And they are, again, as he's mentioned many times, the geographic footprint is important to him.
And let's face it, if they haven't discussed years, they're nowhere close on a deal. Like if they haven't discussed years. So he's doing his PR part. He's selling the brand. He's selling the conference. He's selling interest. He certainly generated some last week. I don't have any doubts that ESPN and Fox probably have interest. I mean, the Big 12's putting up good ratings numbers. They're putting on good games. They have good teams. So I have no doubt that there's going to be interest. But, yeah, I don't think we're as close as maybe last week it appeared to be. But then again, who knows? Maybe that's just something that seems, really simply agreed upon once they get in a room together and figure it out. But, yeah, it looks like we're still going to be waiting for a little while.
I think that